Well, hello there, everybody. We're back in action with Algebra 1, and we're here in our table of contents, and looks like we're going to be on page 54. We're going to be solving systems by substitution. So, yesterday we did graphing systems of equations, so we solved them by graphing, and today now we're going to solve them by substitution. So, if you go ahead and write that in your notebook, and then go ahead and turn on over to page 54, and here we go.
Okay, I'm going to zoom this out just a little bit so that way if y'all want to go ahead and pause and write this stuff for me. And then once you have it written, we will fill in these blanks. So, substitution, this is just a method of solving systems of equations by substituting equations within one another. So you're going to take something and just plug it into its spot. A big hint is you want to look for a letter that has no coefficient. So you want a letter by itself. So like X or Y. Okay, so your steps. Your first step is you're going to solve one of your equations because there will be two for either X or Y. It does not matter. Y'all are very used to solving for Y, but in substitution, you can solve for X. Okay, for step 2, excuse me, you're going to substitute or just plug in is a better way to say it for y'all to understand what you got for step 1 into your other equation. So the equation you did not mess with. For step 3, you're just going to solve for that variable for the equation you're working in. On step 4, you're going to take the answer from step 3 and substitute it back into your step 1 equation. So whatever letter you got by itself. And then for step 5, you are just going to solve whatever you have left for your other variable. Once you have both of your answers, you write them as an ordered pair. So, for our examples, the first example that I am going to do, I'm going to give you the equation y equals 4x minus 1, and I'm going to give you y equals 2x minus 5. Okay, when you have these two equations, step 1 is to solve for x or y. Well, if you look, y is already by itself, so you don't have to worry about isolating anything, getting that letter by itself. So what I'm going to do is on the top equation, y equals 4x minus 1. So I'm going to box the 4x minus 1 because in my second step, it says to substitute that into the other equation. So I'm just going to take this box thing and plug it into the y in the other equation because that's what I know y equals. So when I substitute this in, it becomes, I'm going to do, instead of y, I'm going to do 4x minus 1 equals, and then I just keep what's on the other side, 2x minus 5. Now I just have to solve for my equation. So the first thing that I am going to do is subtract the smaller x. And when I do that, I now have 2x minus 1 equals negative 5. To get x by itself, I'm going to add 1, which gives me 2x equals negative 4. And then I'm going to divide by 2, which gives me x equals negative 2. Once I have x equals negative 2, I'm going to take this and plug it back into this boxed equation. So to show you, I'm going to do y equals 4, but instead of x, I know x is negative 2, and then minus 1. So I get y equals 4 times negative 2 is negative 8, and negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. So when I go to write my final answer, you must write it as an order pair, and x always comes first. So negative 2, negative 9, and there's your answer. Okay, for my second example, we're going to do y equals x plus 9, and we're going to do 3x plus 8y equals negative 5. Okay, so for this problem, step 1 is to look for a letter that's completely by itself. And in the first equation, y is completely by itself. There's nothing on that side with it, so you don't have to change anything. So I'm going to box what it equals. In the second equation, the x and the y both have numbers, so we don't want to mess with that one. Since this is what y equals, we're going to take this box and plug it into the y on the other equation, which is what step 2 says to do. We're going to substitute. So I'm going to write my second equation. We're going to do 3x plus 8. But instead of y, I plug in what y equals, and y equals x plus 9. Keep equals negative 5. Now all you have to do is distribute and solve. So 8 times x is 8x, and 8 times 9 is 72. And then I just bring down the rest of the equation. Okay, so a 3x and an 8x make an 11x. So I have 11x plus 72 equals negative 5. I must move the constant by subtracting it, and I get 11x equals negative 77. And when I divide by 11, I get x equals negative 7. Now I'm going to take this negative 7 and plug it back into my original boxed equation like step 4 says to do. When I do that, I'm going to get y equals, instead of x, I do negative 7 plus 9. Negative 7 plus 9 is 2. So now that I have my answers, my final answer must be written as an ordered pair, and the ordered pair is negative 7, 2. And I box my answer. Okay, moving back, I got to flip pages, so I'm going to the back of this page. I have 2 more examples for you. Okay, my next example, so example 3, we're going to do x plus 5y equals 4. And we're going to do 3x plus 15y equals negative 1. Okay, for step 1, you need to get a letter by itself. Well, right now, the only letter that does not have a coefficient is x. But x is not by itself. It has a 5y with it. So what I'm going to do is bring this equation over, x plus 5y equals 4. And this is where you got to switch your train of thought because you're used to solving for y. So what you're going to do is actually solve for x. So I'm going to subtract the 5y this time. And when I do that, I get x equals negative 5y plus 4. Well, now since x is isolated and by itself, I'm going to box what that is, and I'm going to plug it into the x in the other equation. When I do that, it becomes 3, but instead of x, I'm going to do negative 5y plus 4. And then I bring down plus 15y equals negative 1. I'm going to distribute to solve, so I get negative 15y plus 12 plus 15y equals negative 1. When I combine like terms, a 15 and a negative 15y cancel each other, so I have 12 equals negative 1. Since there's no letter here, you are done with this problem, so now you just have to tell me if this is true or false. Well, 12 does not equal negative 1, so since it is not a true statement, your answer for this one is no solution. Okay, for my last example, example 4, we're going to do 6x plus 3y equals 54. And we're going to do 2x plus y equals 18. Okay, for this problem, step 1, you need a letter by itself. The only letter that does not have a coefficient is y, but y is not by itself. So I'm going to bring this equation over. 2x plus y equals 18. To get y by itself, I must subtract 2x, and that gives me y equals negative 2x plus 18. Okay, so now since y is isolated, I'm going to take what it equals, and I'm going to plug it back into the y in the top equation because I changed the bottom one. So I'm going to get 6x plus 3, open parentheses, negative 2x plus 18, close, equals 54. Now I just distribute and solve. So 3 times negative 2x is negative 6x. 3 times 18 is 54. I bring down my 6x at the beginning and equals 54. When I combine a 6x and a negative 6x, they cancel each other. So I have 54 equals 54. Again, on this one, you don't have any letters, so you're done solving it. So you have to tell me, does 54 equal 54? Well, yes, it does. So therefore, this time your solution is an infinite solution. And remember, if you don't want to write the symbols, you're more than welcome to write the words. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing. I don't have another example, but I want you to flip back to your front examples. On the ones where we got answers, you can take your calculator, and I'm going to show it to you on this example too, because it has two styles. And you can take your answer. So I'm going to show it to you in black. I have y equals x plus 9. Well, this is my x and this is my y. So you can do 2 equals negative 7 plus 9. And when I solve negative 7 plus 9, I get 2. So I have 2 equals 2, which checks. Now I check the other one. So I'm going to do 3 times and x is negative 7 plus 8 times and y is 2. And it needs to equal negative 5. So I'm going to grab my calculator. I'm going to do 3 times negative 7 plus 8 times 2, which gives me negative 5. So negative 5 equals negative 5 is true. If you plug these back in and both statements come out true, then this has to be the right answer. Okay, if you have any questions, please let us know.